That's not a comic book. Now that's a comic book.
And now we begin trade talk. So this is Reginald Hudlin's Black Panther Volume 1. This came out in, I want to say, 2006, maybe? It's been a while. So this is the first arc of his story, the first 6 issues, which is called Who is the Black Panther? And I really, really like this. They did an animated series that was an adaptation of the majority of this. Like they added some stuff, they changed some things, but it's more or less the same thing. They did a little like Marvel Knights motion comic of it for BET. And that is really, really good too. It's a little bit better than this, but not by much. It's just they clearly knew what improvements they could make. So where to begin with Black Panther? This gives us a really interesting perspective into the history of Wakanda and what kind of reputation and what kind of nation they have been, where they've never been conquered, they've never been ruled by anyone else but themselves. And for an African nation, that's very, very unique. And so they're like just these little snippets of history that deal with the way in which they beat back their would-be oppressors. And that's really fascinating, and it creates just a very, very cool perspective on what that kind of nation would be like and how it would be perceived in the modern day by the United States, which is the greatest imperial power in history. And so we have this guy in the White House who's like this expert on Wakanda, and he's informing everybody about it. And he tells them, oh, the Black Panther defeated Captain America in battle, all this kind of stuff. And we juxtapose this with the rise of the book's villain, Claw. Who is the Black Panther? The Black Panther is the ruler of Wakanda. It's a spiritually based warrior cult, sort of like being Pope, President, and head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff all at once. The Panther is a hereditary title, but you still have to earn it. The series of tests that a Panther must pass are so arduous that only candidates who have had special training from childhood can qualify. But just so everyone gets a chance, once a year, there's a day when any Wakandan can challenge the king for the throne. So as royal lineages go, it's a lot more of a meritocracy than, say, England. And we juxtapose that by showing Panther defeating challengers in the ring on that day. It's really cool. There's such a feeling of pride and empowerment and a rich history and understanding that of kind of like a wish fulfillment in this, and it just reads epically. This just feels cool. It just breathes cool. And we get so much that builds up into this, and we see the Black Panther defeated in the ring by a challenger who ends up being Prince T'Challa. And that's just neat. I'm just enjoying the hell out of it. Throughout the book, we get the political machinations of Claw and his surrogates. Get this great scene of the rhino headbutting a rhino and killing it. And that's neat. But we got Claw, who is descendant from Belgian South African conquerors that were turned away by the Wakandans, and he just has this feud with the Black Panthers, and so he wants to destroy the entire country of Wakanda. And he killed T'Challa's father. So there's just this real, like, it's a little comic booky, it's retconny, whatever, I don't care. It makes it personal and it makes it cool. And then there's just like really kick-ass art by John Romita Jr. that just looks fucking awesome. Like, look at this panel and tell me it's not the epitome of awesome. That is like the coolest single panel of all time. I don't care what anyone says. That's amazing. And then there's just like these really interesting back and forths that, like, you get the political movement, or like you get the idea of the political scale of Wakanda. So they're talking about trying to find the man that assassinated T'Challa's father. And one of his advisors goes, "We won't get further without cooperation from the West. Why not make this a condition of limited trade? Maybe they would give him up in exchange for the cure to cancer." And then this other guy goes, "And admit their own complicity? I don't think so. If they cared about their people's health, they wouldn't sell cigarettes." I just love that. That just like so puts them leagues above the other nations of the world. And that's really, really cool. And then there's this scene in the flashback with T'Challa's father where he's been invited to this actual leaders of the world kind of Illuminati thing, the people with actual economies that kind of rule the world. And this guy says, "Your Majesty will pay whatever price you set for your goods." And he just says, "They are not for sale. Until the spiritual advancement of the West catches up to their technological prowess, it would be irresponsible to share our scientific discoveries with you." What? Are you calling everyone here irresponsible children? No, more like sullen teenagers who feel more mature than their behavior warrants. The fact that every conversation here is framed in terms of profit and power says it all. You could have made half these breakthroughs yourself, but there's too much money to be made in misery. Why cure a disease when people pay for medicine? Why provide cheap energy when we got the point, T'Chaka? Never thought I'd meet a socialist with a crown on his head before, but I guess there's a first time for everything. It's just cool. There's just this like absolute air of we're just better than you, and we don't feel ashamed by that. It's kind of hard to explain from time to time, but I'll try to get into it. As a minority in the West, America in particular, you are told that you are equal to white people, that you are just as good, just as deserving. In the modern day, that's what you are told. That is the narrative you are fed. The fact that you have to be told you are equal, that you have equal protection under the law, whether or not that's true, the fact that you have to be told that information is really telling to the idea that you're probably not. It informs the notion that there was a time that you were openly considered less than a person. And you were effectively told to be ashamed that you are not white. That's very much true for the Hispanic experience. It's very much true for the Native experience. And from my interactions with African Americans, it's very much true for the African American experience. The notion of taking a nation of Africans that was never conquered and allowing them to have their culture be unchanged by Western influence and allowing that to breed a society of technological superiority, intelligence, and equality. Feel not sure what word I want. It makes those notions feel really, really great. There is definitely an element of wish fulfillment, but that's kind of what comics are for. If we're going to make a metaphor of an African nation that was never conquered, it's not just going to be, or it shouldn't just be, in my opinion, another nation with the same kinds of problems that the West experiences. If we want to have commentary with this, they should be better, just a better class of people in their ethics and their morality in how they run their society than Western nations. That's why I didn't really care for Ta-Nehisi Nicole's. No, it's Ta-Nehisi Coates. Sorry, I don't know where I got Nicole. That's why I didn't really care for Ta-Nehisi Coates' Black Panther book that's, still ongoing, because when I started reading it, it was just like, all these same problems exist in Wakanda. I mean, it's fine, whatever, do what you want, but it's not why I want to read Black Panther. There is a level of escapism, and that's okay. Themyscira in many ways serves the same purpose as Wakanda does. So it's just neat. It's just got this great it's got this great feeling that immediately appeals to a side of yourself that you always wished could exist. That's the best way I can think to say it. And that is what is so gold about this book, is it has so much pride. It has so much grace. It really does feel like that mythic idea of royalty, being that royalty is not all that mythic when you actually look into it. So it's just really, really neat. T'Challa's royalty, sure, but he's also earned that title. Um, again, I just really like the politics of this. He's asking who's going to be the ambassador for Wakanda to the United Nations, and his uncle doesn't want to do it. So he's like, I guess your son will have to do it. And he's like, my son? I hope you're not choosing him as a favor to me. You know that's not my style. He's smart, tough, and loves our nation. He's also envious of you. Better to have him far away from here. Smart man. I like that. That's really cool. That's a really neat idea. And then we just get, these neat little things. Nelson Mandela is calling, Your Highness. I'll take the call here. Thanks. Amandala T'Challa, congratulations on your coronation. Thank you, Mr. President. Your father provided crucial support to the African National Congress during the dark days of the apartheid. The people of South Africa will never forget the debt we owe you. Your Highness, President Bush on line 2, Fidel Castro on line 3, and Prince Namor on the Aquaphone. That's just cool. That just has a cool factor to it, and again, a real sense of pride. And that's great. And then it's juxtaposed with like the conception of, an African ruler that we have in the West. That certainly does exist. Last King of Scotland, can never remember the guy's name, but he's a big inspiration for this guy, who's like the leader of the nation neighboring Wakanda. And he is helping fund Claw's whole operation, or he's helping stage Claw's operation. It's just neat, man. So Wakanda's coming under attack from a bunch of different sides, and it's really planning an invasion as T'Challa has to start to deal with it, and everything kind of attacks at once. And Andy just deals with it with such calm and incredible prowess that it makes it really, really awesome to watch. Where's the line? Because it's so perfect. I love this cover. That is an amazing, amazing cover. That is a poster. Oof. Haley's sneezing back there. They're Sorry. Noticing, yeah.
That really hurt to do.
Aw. Poor Haley. Anyway, I'm trying to find this moment. Okay, so his uncle, who was the Black Panther that he defeated to gain the throne, tells him, don't get emotional now. They're counting on that. And T'Challa says, emotional? I'm happy. All my enemies in one place. That's awesome. That's just really, really awesome. That like he's being invaded from all sides. He's having to deal with all these different crises at once. The vibranium mine is under attack. The Rhino is rushing through the heart of his country on a collision path with his capital. And There's a freaking knight flying around on a Pegasus, cutting down his fighter jets. Like everything's going wrong for him at once, and it's all because of Ubuntu, his neighboring dictator. And so he's like, good. All these people now shown their hand. I get to go fight them. And that's really, really awesome. And meanwhile, we get the American military trying to involve themselves as quote unquote protectors and helpers. And they've created a special force of reanimated American soldiers' corpses fitted with cybernetic enhancements to go invade Wakanda. There's some commentary there, and I wish it felt as dated now as it did, 8 months ago. Sigh. So T'Challa's mother is under protection, but Claw busts in and kind of seems like things are going wrong just as the United States troops are landing. I want to talk about this cover because this is also another amazing cover. And I believe it was Grady last week when I was talking about Caracalla Andrews' Renato Jones book, who said the art was really, really ugly. And I made the point that Caracalla Andrews is perfectly capable of drawing really, really well. Beautiful art. Renato Jones is ugly on purpose. This cover is by Caracalla Andrews. And it's beautiful. So yeah, I just thought I'd mention that. So anyway, Claw gives T'Challa an ultimatum since he's in the neighboring country at the time. Wherein he will kill his mother and destroy his country unless T'Challa takes this opportunity to kill himself. Now find a nice sharp knife or a dull one, I don't care, and kill yourself. And there's all this tension. He's like, so what are you waiting for? T'Challa, do it. He's like, or what? What do you mean, or what? I told you that you would kill my mother. You will anyway. That you would destroy my kingdom. He will do that anyway, too. It doesn't really matter what you do. I'm still going to kill you. So what's your leverage? And his mom's just like, that's my son. Oh, that's cool. That's so awesome. Yeah, this is like, that's my son. You mean the one who just sentenced you to death? No, the one that just sentenced you to death. That was really cool. And things just go, pretty epically. It's just this big, epic, awesome battle, and I'm enjoying the hell out of it as I read through it. It's got a lot of cool action. It's got a lot of great fight choreography. It's just a really solid book, guys. It's got great metaphor, great commentary. It's got some pretty good comic relief here and there. It's got a great cliffhanger. I'm really excited to read more. And just ends so well. Oh, I love this. So the cyborgs, the US cyborgs show up. And they go, "Greetings, Your Highness. We are military assistants sent by the United States to help secure your borders." And T'Challa says, "Your assistance was not requested and the threat has been neutralized. We will sweep the perimeter for any remaining zombie. Broadcast this message back to your handlers. Wakanda appreciates the offer of assistance from the United States. However, your help is not needed. If you remain on Wakandan soil for more than 1 hour, you will be considered an invading force and will be dealt with accordingly." Message received. We'll be heading back to base. Have a nice day. And he just stands there so proud and defiant. He looks like a freaking statue, and that's just awesome. That just works so well. This is really a great book. This is a really, really solid book. Reginald Hudlin in the back has his initial pitch for how he, like what his plan was. And he's like, the question is, how do we take the character to the next level? Let's start by defining who he is. The Black Panther is the Black Captain America. He's the embodiment of the ideals of a people. As Americans, we feel good when we read Captain America because he reminds us of the potential of how good America can be if, of course, we have the convictions to live by the principles the country was founded on. As a Black person, the Black Panther should represent the fulfillment of the potential of the motherland. For a long time, the Black American equivalent of that ideal was represented by Sidney Poitier, a man who has maintained his dignity even in degrading situations. But since the 80s, that ideal has shifted in the post-integration, post-Reagan era. The new ideal is Spike Lee or Sean Puffy Combs, the artist/businessman hero who profits from his own cultural integrity. In other words, the man who has it all, the money, the politics, and the cool style of Black culture. What those celebrities named alongside with Malcolm X, Miles Davis, and Muhammad Ali all have in common is the knowledge that the being of a Black man in white America is an inherent act of rebellion. They are willing to be badass. I say all this because the harder the Panther is, the more appealing he is to both Black and white audiences. What we've got to do is allow the Panther to be who he is set up to be. After all, he's a Wakandan. Wakandans are so badass, they've never been conquered, all in caps. This is important. There are some countries that are like doormats. Everybody's kicked their ass at one point or another, but there are other peoples in the world, Vietnam comes to mind, that kick the ass of everyone who messes with them, superpower or not. The Wakandans are such a people. I figure every 50 years or so, somebody tries to make a move on them, and they have to prove the point to that generation of would-be conquerors, don't even try it. Now, I'd asked Duke Loops, why he didn't like this, because I've heard him talk about hating Hudlin's Black Panther run. And his response was mainly that he thought Hudlin was a really annoying person, really annoying as a writer, that he thought he was better than the material. And like, he'd only ever had, when he started writing this, he had House Party 2 as his writing credits on things. And he's certainly not written much great outside of this, from what I can tell. I believe he's still one of the executive producers of BET, and we all know what garbage they put on air. He was involved in the Django Zorro crossover that I really, really loved. We did an episode of Geeky Gentleman on that. He's he got into comics effectively and kind of being a little brazen and saying that he was going to make comics better when he really, you know, what right does he have to say that? That being said, this is damn good. I can't think of anything fundamentally wrong with this story. I can see why this story wouldn't speak to some people, particularly white people. I would see why this would not speak to you as strongly as it would to someone who is a minority, especially if they're black. But, you know, I read this and it's just a really, really solid book. And so, death of the author is the best I could say. If you're kind of turned off by Hudlin's behavior, if you think Hudlin's smug, you certainly have the right to be, but don't allow that to affect your opinion of this, because this shit is solid. This is a solid book. And I think it is a really, really great place to start reading Black Panther. I actually bought all of Hudlin's run. I did a while ago, and I bought it all when I was in a Black Panther mood, but I didn't start reading it at that time, because by the time I got it all, I wasn't in a Black Panther mood anymore. But I'm in more of a Black Panther mood all of a sudden, so I'm going to start reading more Black Panther. I'll try to get through all of Hudlin's run and do, reviews of it here on this show. I know there are things that are not popular that he did. Some people don't like the marriage to Storm. I don't know. I'll see when I get to it if I care or not.
That's not a comic book. Now that's a comic book.